What's up, guys, and welcome to the FPL WildCats Live. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we get into the video and I'll pass over to Nim, do make sure to share this video out, hit that like button, and if you are new around here, make sure to hit that subscribe. And I'll pass over to Nim so we can start the proceedings a bit later than usual, but my graphics card had to update, which is really annoying, but let's get on with the show.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. No worries about that. These things happen. Welcome, everyone, to the stream. As you'll see, Brett is back with us after his appearance on the FPL FYI show. Well done, bud. Welcome back. Welcome back. Did you enjoy it?
I did, yeah. It was terrifying, but a good experience for sure.
Cool. Well, there's just some admin to take care of before we get on with our teams. We've decided that we're not using Patreon now as a monthly contest to our league. There was only a handful of us in it and involved, so we've decided we want to grow more of a community feel here at the Wildcats. So we've decided to put all of our efforts into Discord instead, and we'll be bringing you all of that information either via social media or on our next stream. So keep your eyes open for that, because we've got some exciting stuff being built around that. You are still welcome, of course, to support us monthly on Patreon if you like. But it would just be support for enjoying our content and things like that. There's also many other ways you can also support the channel if you do like what we do, with one-off payments either via Ko-fi or by Super Chat. But you know what? You can also just show your support by liking and subscribing, as Jay said, and that's free, and we appreciate that just as much. So make sure you hit that bell notification so you know when we're live, and like and subscribe. Anyway, I feel like I've been chatting for an absolute age now, lads. So, Brett, how did you get on with Gameweek 6?
Cool. Hey, guys. Yeah, it was a good game week in the end. 75, which is actually my highest score of the season. And obviously, anyone that's followed my team would know I've had a torrid start to the season, really. I haven't had a good game week up until now. And I was sitting at 3.2 million before the game week started. And with 75, I've jumped 1.5 million places. So I'm at 1.7 million now. So it's a little bit more respectable. It's definitely a kind of season back on track kind of week. Obviously, a lot of fortune, which was maybe deserved after the start of the season. I got Lundstrom off the bench, which was very fortunate. And yeah, the whole week I just deliberated over selling Kane and getting in Callum Wilson. I've been thinking about that move for a while. Kane delivered the same points as Wilson this week anyway. But every week I have the same dilemma because Kane's the only sort of cash cow that I have to release funds because I can't sell Sterling or De Bruyne or Mane. So I'm still faced the same kind of dilemma again. But yeah, great week. Otamendi with 15 points. That was really lovely considering I had Laporte before and he got injured and I had a bit of an unlucky, moment with that. John McGinn as well, taking over with 10 points was nice. The only negative was not vice captaining De Bruyne like everyone else did. So my captain for the 5th week running has blanked again. I had a vice on Mane and he blanked. But that was a conscious decision. I fancied Mane to be more explosive than De Bruyne and I got punished by that. So that's my own fault, really. But yeah, 75, good week and a big jump up the ranks. So hopefully I can carry that on now for the next few weeks.
Brilliant stuff. Wow, well done on that. That's a good jump in a random week. So, Kurt, how did you get on?
A bit of a wishy-washy week, really. I ended up with 57 points, which, looking at how things started, I'm okay with. At the end, I've decided I'm okay with. Obviously, the Sterling bench rocked us, and I was not sure if him not coming off the bench would end up being beneficial. Also, I had Zinchenko, who didn't play any part and I don't think he was even involved in the 18. So that was another worrying thing. But fortunately, coming off the bench was Gilbert and McGinn. So grabbing 10 points off that is not too bad. With that, obviously, I went to my vice. My vice was Mason Mount, and he blanked. Which, to be fair, it'll make me change my vice captain because I didn't bother changing my vice captain this week. I thought Sterling's going to bang it in, and I almost had no captain because I wasn't sure if Mount was going to play. So, yeah, a lesson for me in the future. But yeah, late Aubameyang goal saved me. McGinn in that same game, getting some good returns. Lundstrom, obviously, I put him in starting, returned of 12 points, a good clean sheet, and an assist against Everton, who seem to be struggling apart from teams again, like Sheffield Wednesday, but they're beaten 2-0. Firmino as well got some returns. Son got some returns. So all in all, it was a bang average week. I made a few transfers. Vardy came in and didn't do anything. So that was a worrying one. I have now got rid of Zinchenko as well for next week. He is gone. But yeah, all in all, it could have been a lot worse considering my captain didn't play and my vice captain was injured. But 57 points, it's a little drop in the rank, but it's bearable this time of the season. A little bit of a blip like that is bearable. So 57 is okay.
Yeah, it's not too bad at all, actually, given, like you said, given some of the things that happened for you on the captaincy front. Jay, how did you get on?
Okay, so first off, apologies for the wrong team being up when Black started. That was from the last stream, but it was updated halfway through. So Mig was like, he's put his last week's team up just to troll him. It was a mistake.
That's what you get for leaving us.
Yeah, I was like, I've got to show his team from last week because
he wasn't here.
Mine is 66 points, so a decent game week. It did see me rise 800k in rank, so I'm also out of the 2 million club now. It gives me some momentum, hopefully, to keep pushing forward, and break that million would be good. Ideally, as soon as possible. We had the issue with Sterling, of course, being benched, but to be fair, Rico coming in off the bench with 5 points, so I can't really complain. Shame I didn't vice captain De Bruyne, but what can you do? Well, I did vice captain De Bruyne. I didn't captain Sterling. I captained Salah. 5 points, not the ideal return, but it's better than some of my failures. And Lundstrom, 12 points. What can I say about Lundstrom? And Alexander-Arnold with a goal. So some good performances from the team. Fortunately, I had a bench that had some performers on it as well. So that boosted my points up to 66 points. And now 325 points in total. And hopefully chasing the leading pack.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, I got exactly the same amount of points as you, believe it or not. To be honest, I'm a little shocked at my team this week. I did a very in-depth video for my channel, so I'm reluctant to bore people going over it again. Plus, I'm not sure I can just relive all that again. But basically, Saturday evening, it was looking very bleak, like really, really bad, despite having Aguero as captain. I do not own KDB, and of course, Sterling was benched. So my only player in that City game was Aguero as my captain. And you know what, it was okay until KDB scored that last goal, and then it was very not okay. So I was basically on for a very big red arrow Saturday night, which just goes to show how close the margins still are, to be honest. If that's I think it was like a 600-700k drop on Saturday night. So it just goes to show how close things are, really. But Sunday and my bench basically saved my game week. Much of the same people that you guys have already mentioned. Salah getting his assist, Trent's goal. Mount even just playing was helpful because I had 0 with all my others on the bench and not playing. So him just getting 2 points was, still really helpful. I had McGinn being an absolute boss, scoring a goal against Arsenal, which I just kind of knew Aston Villa were going to do because we're shocking at the back. I got a bit lucky, like you guys, with Lundstrom off the bench. Well, some of you guys, with Lundstrom off the bench. So somehow managed to eke out a green arrow with the 66. I think around 260k or something like that at the moment. It's absolute madness. And it just doesn't stop the madness there this week because I've no idea what to do with my transfers. So I had 2 transfers last game week, and I basically threw one away, which I never do. I burnt it. I never ever burn transfers, but I just couldn't see what it was I needed to do. And of course, I thought I considered Otamendi, I considered Rico, both for Zinchenko, which obviously would have been better options. Did also consider Tomori, that wouldn't have gone so well. But yeah, one of those moves this week, would have been really helpful to this week, because now I'm kind of looking at -4 options, which isn't brilliant. But yeah, it's a difficult week to know exactly what to do. But on that note, we'll move on to the questions and see if we can help some people out. So we've had a lot. Everybody, thank you so much again for getting in touch. We will try our best to get through everybody who we don't get through. We will try and get on Instagram and answer there for you. So at J_C_07 asks, which City triple up would you have if you defo wanted Aubameyang in your team on your wild card from game week 8? So, Kurt, you've already got Aubameyang, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you were to have a City triple up with him, who would you go for?
From game week 8, so after this game week?
Yeah.
Okay, that's maybe a bit complicated. It depends who else he's got and where else he wants the money, because obviously a lot of people will want some Liverpool coverage. A lot of people will want maybe some other coverage. Maybe looking at potentially some Man United, although they'd probably be a bit stupid to do that at the moment.
Let's just say, for argument though, that the first 3 people in his team besides Aubameyang are going to be City. Who would you choose?
Do you want to know their fixtures as well? Would that help?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so you got Wolves from game week 8, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, Southampton, Liverpool, with Palace and Liverpool being the away games.
So it makes it quite a nice run. I have to admit, I haven't really thought much about City because as much as there was a massive score line, I think that was overinflated by the fact Watford are all at sea at the moment. They've got injuries. They played a front 2 in the last couple of games of DLFA and Tom Cleverley, which just about says it all. So the defenders I'd run out, I'd get rid of. I would go 3 of midfielders or attackers. For me personally, I'm going to have to say De Bruyne has probably got to be 1. And then it'd have to maybe be Aguero if you want to go a bit top heavy. The third one is interesting because at the moment Otamendi is looking like he's nailed on, but are the clean sheets nailed on? Will he get 15 points every week? I don't think so. You could look at the wide defenders, but they were chopped and changed at the weekend. I don't know who's going to start out of the 3 fit left backs they've got, the 2 right backs that they've got. So it's all it's all up in the air in terms of that. Fernandinho's moved back into defence, so he's no good. So if anything, if I was forced to pick, it'd probably have to be someone like Bernardo Silva, who seems to be a player that can drop into that midfield, do that sort of deeper role, but also play out wide if and when Pep wants him to. So I'd go Bernardo Silva, I'd go Sergio Aguero, and I'd go Kevin De Bruyne. So it's not too expensive, considering if you add Sterling into there instead of Bernardo Silva, it's a lot more expensive. But those are the 3 I'd go for. But in argument's sake, I'd probably just say I'd just take 2.
Yeah, I think it's difficult. I mean, if he's having Aubameyang up front, then I don't think Aguero is probably, like, if you go Aguero as well, like, you're seriously kind of restricting your funds. Like, you would have to consider maybe a Silva in midfield and then a defender, I think, for that, for that price. So I think like with definitely having Aubameyang, then it's got to be like KDB, Sterling, and a defender, maybe, because I've got, like, I don't know, you might struggle, but yeah, then you'd probably have to maybe consider losing Salah or Mane in that sort of lineup. So you'd probably have to choose maybe a Sterling or a KDB, a Silva, and a defender. I think was probably more what you'd be looking at, because I think it'd be quite difficult. What are you laughing at?
Colchester have just knocked Spurs out on penalties.
Oh my god!
Get in, Colchester.
Whoa! Oh my.
Sorry,
word.
Carry on.
I used to live in Colchester, so get in there.
Well, they're down the road from Colchester, so it'd be interesting to see if they get a big home tie.
No, wow, that's interesting. Cool.
Sorry, carry on.
No, it's okay. It's fine. I lost my train of thought, but yeah, I think you would maybe struggle to have like Aubameyang, KDB, Sterling, and and the defender. But if you can do it, like if you want Liverpool as well, that is. What do you think, Brett?
Well, I think a triple up at the moment seems essential to me. I mean, nothing's ever essential, but given their fixtures and the way they're playing and how explosive they can be, they're just such trustworthy options. So I think a triple up is more than viable. Obviously, most of us have got a triple up, and I have too. With the way my team's set up at the moment, like I've got Kane up front, which is the same price of Aubameyang, and I've still managed to afford Sterling, KDB, and a Man City defender with a fairly balanced team.
And Mane. So yeah,
it's very possible. It is very possible, and at the same time, Sterling and Aguero are the same price, so you kind of have the choice between those two, really. If you don't, if you don't want Sterling, you can have Aguero for the same kind of price. But I get what you're saying. To have Aubameyang and Aguero up front, like, there's so many good value forwards cropping up at the moment. It doesn't seem that necessary to have the two of them up front, because you've got Abraham and Barnes and Wilson to choose from as well, So, yeah, I think with Aubameyang, which is a bit like my Kane, I quite like having KDB and Sterling and then one defender, I think. So the likes of Otamendi and KDB, and then one of Aguero or Sterling, basically.
Cool. Jay, in agreement, or anything else to add to that?
Well, I wouldn't mind if you just moved on, because that's a very difficult question apart from KDB in my eyes. I think Aguero looks like he could be very important, but having players like Aubameyang around as well, potentially you could just go with one or the other and just accept the fact that the other striker is going to do well this season, but for the balance of your side, you may just have to ignore them. I'm personally thinking of getting off of a Man City defender, just because Watford aren't the side to judge their defence against. Outside of that game, I've not been too enamoured with their defence this season. Don't get me wrong, Fernandinho could come in and do well, but something just makes me feel like the clean sheets aren't going to be there. So I would definitely say KDB and then Sterling or Aguero. If you are going for a triple, the likes of Bernardo Silva and David Silva are there, but they're probably just a little bit too much to manage to fit in as a third. But I would definitely be quite happy to have either of them as a third Man City.
So who would you have as an alternative to a Man City defender then, Jay? Because I get what you're saying, because obviously with all the injuries and they have conceded goals, and even against Watford in the 8-0 win, Deulofeu should have scored, really.
Yes.
There was a big chance where, I think like all this expected stats, and Man City's expected clean sheets are actually lower than what they've kept, more than they should have even still. But what other team can we trust for clean sheets? Like Man City have so much possession that often teams don't get that many shots off. They don't get that many chances, So I get that they've got so many injuries, but at the same time, I'm like, well, I only really trust Liverpool and Man City to keep clean sheets. So I just don't really know where else to go for them. So
the thing is, though, you're going to weigh up the cash, haven't you, for that? If you're not sure that City can keep a clean sheet and you're not sure where else to go for it, why are you spending 5-6 mil on a City defender?
That's what I've done. Zinchenko's gone out and I've brought in Serge Aurier, 4.9 million.
Right now,
I'm lucky not to get returns in the last game as well.
He was unlucky, to be fair. That was very unlucky. And that would have been a Kane assist, by the way. And I wouldn't that.
Yeah.
I just think there isn't any team that are guaranteed clean sheets right now. Even Liverpool don't look like they're a team that will consistently get clean sheets.
Come on, Everton can't score goals. They're not going to score against City, surely.
Who knows? That'll probably be the game.
Sigurdsson. Yeah, this is going to be the Digne Sigurdsson week, isn't it? Because apparently Digne is dropping tonight, and so I'm going to have a bit of a headache to think about whether or not I'm selling or not.
Lots in the chat about that.
Yeah, we'll get onto that in a minute, actually, because we do have a question on that. So our next one is at FPL Telling. Would like to know, Chelsea fixtures are now that good. Is it wise to double up on Tammy and Mount given how cheap they are? Now, I was actually talking to Joe from Fantasy Football Scout today on Twitter about this, and we were having a bit of a conversation, a bit of a Twitter discussion, and he said basically Abraham is a well-owned shield, and so too is Mount. Put them together to create a rank-climbing sword, he thinks. This looks a great and affordable double-up situation, as is Pookie and Cantwell at home. So that's what Joe's got to say. I'm actually considering this kind of myself. So I've got a couple of options this week. One is to obviously just move Zinchenko on and get like an Otamendi, and kind of, I guess, what Brett's saying, just stick with City defence and see how it goes. That would be one change, and then 2 transfers, kick it down the road. But I've got this bit of a kind of, what I'm like for my gut feelings, and I have a bit of a gut feeling about Tammy this week, about Abraham. So my only real way to him, without going to another, I've got Cantwell, without going to another 4.5 mid, is to pretty much kind of sell Digne and Zinchenko to a 4.5 and a Rico. And then I can up Greenwood to Abraham. But of course, that would leave me with a Trent, 2 4.5s and 2 4.1s for, 4.3s or whatever it is Lundstrom is now. But that would leave me with Abraham and Mount. So it's a difficult one, because it would leave me with quite a kind of, I guess you could say, quite a strong midfield and forward line. It might be quite difficult to decide who to drop each week. But I guess my issue is that I don't have KDB. So in the next week or so anyway, I'm going to have to seriously consider whether Sterling or Aguero goes, in order for me to invest in turning one of those midfielders into KDB if I'm not doing a straight swap from Sterling to KDB anyway. So for me, I'm very tempted by that, and that would see me having both Abraham and Mount. But what do you guys think about them doubling up? So Jay, what do you think about the whole Mount and Tammy double up?
I actually like both players, and I brought Tammy in.
To
be honest, it was for Deulofeu.
Okay.
Maybe a week too late. I would have liked him for the week before, but
of course.
So that's why you didn't do anything this week.
To be fair, he wasn't too far off scoring against Liverpool, but
yeah.
The issue I have with doubling up, because I actually like both, and in that price bracket, there isn't many that I look at compared to Mount that I really want to put into my side. You may be looking at Maddison's the more expensive one that I might take a risk on. And then you've got the Aston Villa midfielders, Grealish and McGinn, who I'd consider. But outside of that, maybe McNeil if I was trying to play the fixtures, but his stats don't really compare to Mount's, as well as some of the other names I mentioned. The issue I have is if I've already got 3 City and 2 Liverpool, then I have 2 Chelsea. That's 7 players and 3 teams. And it's just
to be fair, a lot of the templates are starting to go that way, though, isn't it? I mean, I've seen a lot of people triple Liverpool, triple City, triple
I don't mind
Chelsea.
I don't mind having that many from City and Liverpool because I have a certain level of belief in them to, even if they have one bad game week, it's not going to be a run of bad game week.
Yeah.
With Chelsea, yes, they're starting to look better than they did at the beginning of the season. They're starting to not drop off as much in the second half as they were doing. But I still don't have that level of confidence to really go all in on Chelsea. And as I already have Abraham, that would make it difficult for me to really go for Mount as well. And his price keeps rising, which makes him less appealing to me than, say, the McGinns and the Grealishes.
Yeah, I think it's different if you already own him. And for me, of course, if I did get Tammy, then I would then have the option to make Mount KDB, so that's probably what I'm thinking. But I will link into my next question, actually, lads, before I come to Brighton Kerr. At FPL_JRF is in the same field, and he says Tammy versus Firmino. So Tammy looks to be a no-brainer with his form and the fixtures ahead, but he has an unshakable feeling that Firmino is going to embark on a good patch. So
it's also a poll question. So
is it? Oh, yeah. Go vote. So Brett, tell us what do you think about the whole double up on Chelsea, and if you don't necessarily agree, what's your thoughts on Firmino?
So with the double up on Chelsea, I mean, just looking at the ownership now, I didn't realise Tammy was 30% owned.
Yeah,
so I was basically going to say, well, I didn't quite agree with Joe because it's, I'd still wouldn't consider them a shield at 20%, but it's actually 30% owned, which is quite high. Yeah. Well, look, the fixtures for Chelsea do look extremely tempting. They're top of the FDR table at the moment. The next 5 game weeks, they've got difficulty rating of 2. I know the FDR can be a little bit funny, but they've looked decent attacking wise. They've scored quite a few goals this season. I think if you can get both, they do seem like options you can just set and forget for the next 5 weeks minimum, and not have to worry about them. I quite like the double up. It's not so.
Although we say that, and I just can tell now we're going to be here in 3 weeks' time. Those fixtures look so good, but they've been absolutely shocking.
True.
Because the fixtures haven't been the be all and the end all this season, have they?
No.
Let's be honest. Look at Spurs tonight, for instance.
Yeah, for sure. But both are in good form as well.
Yeah,
and the good thing about them is they are so cheap. It's not like you're investing so much into them that you need them to perform every game. We are quite blessed with their prices, really. 2 very cheap players playing for Chelsea with good upcoming fixtures and a team that have looked quite attacking so far.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be doubling up because I can't really fit them into my team at the moment, but I'm trying to get one of them in if I can, because the fixtures are that good, Yeah. So yeah, I don't think there's any issues with the double up. And I do like the point that Joe makes, that having 2, even though a bit like what I was on about with Salah and Mane, both aren't differentials on their own, but owning both, not many players do. So it's good to think of it in that way. So it's similar to Mount and Abraham, both of them together. If they have a big haul one day, it could reap rewards,
Yeah. Anything to add to that, Kurt, or shall I head on to the next question?
To throw the cat amongst the metaphorical pigeons, my personal opinion, looking at potential transfers that I was considering making this week, is just to hold your horses on Abraham, because it's 3 very good games, but then there's also, I think there's a lot more to come from Abraham, but I do fear that those 3 games are just 3 games. It's 7 goals nonetheless, but it's 3 games. The first two, they weren't very good from Abraham. He didn't play. He didn't start in the second one. I believe he started against Manchester United, and it wasn't very good. Liverpool got no points. I think he had a couple of half chances as well. So my thoughts are just hold your horses. This is probably his first proper season as a Premier League striker. His last one was with Swansea, and he got a handful of goals and a couple of assists on that. But the other thing to add is that he's going to be rising fast. He scores again this week. He's going to be rising even faster. And he is the second most owned striker, just above Aguero, only behind Pukki by about 14%.
Yeah. Okay, so actually this next one links quite nicely as well. We will get on to some in the chat in a minute. But at Dom FPL asks, and I'll do this is a quick fire question, lads, if you're cool with that. What 3 mid-priced forwards then should we have? So who'd like to go first? If you were wildcarding right now and you wanted 3 mid-priced strikers, who would you go for?
What would you define as mid-price, the cut-off?
I'm assuming he means like that kind of whole 5 to 8 margin, I would have thought, because I think anything past there is kind of like getting into Firmino, Vardy territory, which is a bit pricier.
Well, I think the obvious ones, obviously Abraham, like we spoke about. Callum Wilson for me. He's scored in every game so far. He's just that one player. Like, I haven't had him yet, but he's the player that I've been trying to get in for the last few weeks, just because he's the kind of player even though he's trolled me a lot, he is the sort of player to put in your team and forget about him, because even if he blanks a few games, like, he's always capable of getting big scores, and the fixtures still look very good for Bournemouth, attacking wise anyway. I think they've got Norwich and Arsenal coming up soon, and West Ham. I know they're on 3 clean sheets, but it's still a nice game at home for Bournemouth. So, yeah, Abraham, Wilson, and probably Pukki. But, Pukki hasn't quite done it away from home yet. So I'm still, little thoughts are creeping into my head about Pukki now. But yeah, those are the 3 for me, I would say at the moment. A bit obvious, but yeah.
Yeah, I think like my initial reaction was quite similar. So Tammy, Pukki, just again, those 2 mainly for ownership, if nothing else for now. And then I was kind of between Barnes or Haller. Obviously, both have been as iffy as each other, but both have the potential to get a couple of goals in any game, really. But I actually would like to throw out an option to your Wilson and just saying about Kingy, because he would be even a bit cheaper than Wilson would be. And usually if Wilson gets something, Kingy might get a little something too. And if you're going to be playing your 3 strikers every week, you could definitely go down that route. But Jay, any different ones there? I don't know, I've kind of mentioned them all, but like, if you could have any of those right now, which ones would you go for?
I mean, let's get back to quickfire.
Yeah,
I just agree with Brett.
Okay, cool. Go with it. That's all you're going to say, is it?
Yeah, I forgot.
You said quickfire, and then everyone carried on like
that. Yeah,
Oops.
I think.
So I'm not going to be able to add anything. So
yeah. Okay, cool. All right, Kurt, anyone different since you're not so hot on Tammy?
I agree with Jay, who agrees with Brett.
He disagrees with Brett.
No, I like the looks of Haller, and I'll be keeping a clean eye on him, because if Vardy doesn't pay off, then Haller's the one I'm looking at, because I like a little differential. And I think he's still trying to, bode into the English football. Only played 5 games, but he looks like a player that when the players around him are fully fit, he's going to reap the rewards.
Cool. Okay, can we have a question from the chat, lads?
Sure. I feel bad because we didn't really touch on Firmino. Like, who asked that question? Because we didn't really talk about him then.
Oh yeah, good point. It was FPL _JRF.
Cool. Just to quickly talk about Firmino then. This might be unpopular because I know that this season his stats have been terrific. He's getting in the box more. His underlying stats show that he's having like one of the most shots of any striker in the league, which is a little bit unheard of for Firmino, because normally, like last season, he was the one dropping deeper, not getting touches in the box. It was frustrating, So he is looking an amazing option. And because he is so much cheaper than like last season, he was the same price as Mane, so it was kind of like a no-brainer to go for Mane. Now he's the cheaper way into their attack, you know, so I can see the appeal there. So perhaps it's a personal experience, but for me, the little voice in my head is saying, "Don't fall into that trap again."
It's like me and Lucas Moura, really, isn't it?
Yeah. So I like Firmino, such a top quality player away from FPL, and he's performing and he's performing amazingly this season in FPL as well, which is great. So I would never say to anyone, "Don't get him," and I can see the appeal. But me personally, I'm worried that if I buy him and he blanks for 1 or 2 games, that I'm going to be already thinking, there's money I could free up there, because it's still 2 million more than Wilson, Pookie, Abraham, that kind of thing. So that's my thoughts on him. But he still looks a great option, and the underlying stats do back it up. So you're right to be considering him for sure.
Cool. Okay, can we have a question from the chat then?
Okay. Right. So we might as well get on to Luca Digne, really, because Marzan Mohammed wants to know, should he be transferring Digne out? And obviously it's a hot topic for this week. Blanked in quite a few games now, at home to Sheffield United as well. So has anyone here got Digne? And
Yep.
We've all got Luca Digne. Okay, so
basically he went bad the second Jay bought him. Just saying.
No. He got some points.
Then went bad.
So
just not clean sheets.
What do you reckon, Kurt? What's your plan with Digne? Any plans to move him out, or are you going to stay patient?
I've already made my transfers this week.
Okay.
And, you know, admittedly, other players probably could. I went literally to try and get the players in that I wanted, and to get, you know, hopefully get in before the price rises. Stupidly, I forgot that obviously Everton are at home to Man City. So he's not going to play any part of my team. He's going to be on the bench. He's going to be deep in my bench, because
I think lots will be doing that this week.
But if he does perform well, it's the sort of thing that I've got good defenders to play. I'm not too worried with him. But if he doesn't perform, and it's more to the point of, I'll be watching, if he does play, how he plays. Because obviously you can't, if Everton get beaten 4-1, you can't say, oh, that's it. Dreadful performance, dreadful result. Because City are going to do that to a lot more teams this season, beaten by a couple of goals. They'll be looking at how he plays, didn't make any mistakes. Is it Everton the way they play in general? And also, if he's on the set play still, check that. Is Sigurdsson trying to take over? Those are the 2 key things I think I'll be looking at. And especially if Everton being on TV, gives you a whole 90 minutes to watch. But the moment he stays in my team, I am getting close to transferring him out. But if I did transfer him out, I'd want to make another transfer and put the funds elsewhere. I've already got 1.1 in the bank. And that'd make, I'd be doing a -8, which is ridiculous a week after a -4 on average result.
But Kurt, what did you actually do this week?
This week,
Yes, this week.
In FPL, by the way.
I was going to say, well, Monday I went to the shops. No. This week I was a bit stupid. I got rid of Zinchenko, and I got rid of Beluta, because when I brought Beluta in, it was just a budget option, and I forgot that Rico existed. He was added onto the game last week or the week before.
It was debuted in or something last week.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I thought, excellent, he's going to have no ownership. So if he goes up in price, I could potentially get the rewards from it. But I forgot about Rico, who's 4.1, and now Charlie Daniels is out. Could be a good option. So I got rid of Beluta for Rico. And I got rid of Zinchenko because I'm more worried about that price drop, having not played, and with Angelino and Mendy playing a part in the game. And I brought Aurier in because I saw he was getting close to a price rise, and I thought that could be 2 weeks where he gets 2 good returns. Maybe trying to stamp that authority down on that right back slot as well. And good fixtures coming up in Southampton at home, Brighton away, and Watford at home. So those are my 2 transfers. So I could still get Digne out. The person I'd probably be looking at is a cheaper option. So I would have no one above 5.0. It would be the plan. Go absolutely get nothing from the big market players. But at the moment, he's staying just.
Just quickly as well, Kurt, you were saying about watching 90 minutes. I don't think I can think of anything more stressful than watching my defender play Man City
for 90 minutes.
Oh no, I don't know. Watching Arsenal the last few weeks has been pretty stressful.
So what about you, Jay? I mean, have you had any sort of thoughts about getting rid of Digne?
Yes, I think if you're not really having some doubts, then you're not really watching the points.
Then you don't really care about FPL.
Yeah, you're not really bothered about your rank, are you? The issue I have is the underlying stats for his attacking play are still there.
Yeah.
And it's still possible that he will pop up with one of those game weeks that he had last year where he gets double digits and then everyone's dropped him. And that seems the time when he usually does turn up, when you're not really expecting it. And Everton are capable of being a good defence. I think they're just missing their new signing. Was it, I don't know how to say it, Bamin, something like that. He seems to be out. That was kind of the player that was coming in to replace Idrissa Gueye. So the issue, if he drops too much and I'm not getting the clean sheets and it's just attacking returns, 6 million seems a bit too much. The issue I have is I can't find a cheaper player that I have that like stands out. Like last year you had your Doherty's and so on and so forth.
Yeah, there still isn't any of those, is there, yet?
Yeah, no one's kind of set themselves apart from everyone else.
No, even underlying
really
stats-wise. Because when last season, when we look at the underlying stats, it was like, and Matt Doherty was right up there with penalty area touches. There's no budget defenders that are really jumping out off the page. Like Doherty did. So.
I think like Tamori and Soichu, is it the Leicester fella? Those two seem to be the general kind of, if you're downgrading, they'd be the ones you'd
I think that's because you're hoping Chelsea and Leicester get clean sheets though.
Yeah.
It's not really any attacking
attacking wise.
No.
I mean, Aki, I just put it
Don't
out
get
there.
a Bournemouth defender. Actually, Rico, I'm actually changing my opinion. But
come on, dude.
they don't get clean sheets, so unless you've got an attacking threat or they're really cheap, don't get them.
Yeah, I'm sat here thinking, seeing as we're just this, like, I'm struggling with the Digne thing because, like, I've just kind of said and forgetted him, like, basically since the beginning of the season, and like now I'm thinking, like, I could downgrade him and I can get Tammy. And whilst I can completely see what Kurt is saying, that there is this little bit of me that feels like Tammy is very bandwagon, very bandwagon, and he could do brilliantly or he could absolutely tank now, in the next few game weeks. Especially since we have to worry as well. We're kind of like forgetting that we have Champions League in the middle of next week, where some of these players can be playing and, anything can happen there as well in those Europa, in those matches as well. So like there is a bit of me that just wants to make one transfer with Zinchenko this week and then kick those two transfers down the line and see what happens during the whole Champions League of next week and see if Tammy has lived up to, what's happening and stuff like that. But the price drops and the price rises are brutal this season. And I think that's the bit that's kind of has people panicking on Digne, if I'm honest, because it's exactly how I feel. I mean, I have an option that gets me Tammy that means me like selling Digne and not worrying about that price drop and and maybe gaining a price rise out of one of the other people I'm swapping him to. So I can completely see the drive for it, if you see what I mean. But it is so tough because, like Jay says, he does definitely have the ability, to be as good as Trent, and it wouldn't be surprise me if, like we were saying, if anyone was to score against City, that Everton could do it. You could see it, couldn't you? Digne coming in, cutting in the box, getting taken down for a penalty, Sigurdsson taking it, or a free kick, and those two like have been sold out in droves this week, and they could easily be ones that they get something from that game. It's incredibly difficult this week.
I'm really in two minds on this one because, like you said, at the start of the season, I didn't start with Luca Digne, even though I planned to all summer. We were basing Everton's defence on the great defensive record from last season when they got like 8 clean sheets in the last 10 game weeks or something. And part of me was like, well, it's a new season. I don't trust Everton for clean sheets. And I knew for a fact that the minute Everton start conceding, people are going to start to think 6 million feels quite expensive now, because Luca Digne was like 4.95 million last year. So it's a bit different. When you're spending 6 million on a defender and they're not keeping clean sheets, that 6 million starts to feel very expensive very quickly. So I was anticipating Everton conceding a few goals, people dropping him, and then maybe me getting him at 5.8 million or something. But they kept 2 clean sheets on the bounce in the first 2 game weeks. And I was like, I've made a mistake here. I brought Digne in game week 3 and he's blank, no clean sheets since then. And now it's kind of
both of yours fault. Now I see why he hasn't done anything.
And now it's kind of like,
see, Brett kept quiet about it. He's letting me take all the flack.
So partly I'm annoyed because I did kind of tell myself that Everton are Everton. They're not that strong defensively. But at the same time, when I did bring him in game week 3, I thought, right, I'm going to bring him in and that is it. I'm just going to, I know Digne will be a great option over the long term. I'm just going to leave him in. And like Jay said, his underlying stats are brilliant. Second for chances created behind only Alexander-Arnold. Steve Wynyard in the chat always makes good points. And the same feeling I have is that despite him creating loads of chances, Everton have got like 5 goals in the opening 6 games. Like no one's finishing the chances. So it's all counts for nothing. It doesn't matter how many chances he creates. If no one scores the goals, it doesn't really matter. And at
they
the
are
same
a bit
time,
lost without any real striker, aren't they?
For sure. And at the same time, I'm trying to stay patient because Burnley away in game week 8 after Man City is the fixture that he got 2 goals against last season. Burnley away, he got 2 goals. So there's a bit of history there if you're looking for reasons to keep Luca Digne. He does have the reputation to punish people when you sell him. So I've got a feeling that people will fall into this trap of selling him and then be like, oh, what have I done? And regret it later down the line. So I know the sensible option is just to bench him this week and keep him probably. But I am part of me that the maverick in me is thinking Marcus Alonso for one for.
I was thinking Aspilicueta, I was thinking one of those two.
Chelsea's fixtures look great. Emerson's out. Alonso is Alonso. He's playing at wing back. He's got an assist already. He's got like loads of shots compared to defenders already, despite less minutes. Aspilicueta's got good stats too, and is a bit more budget friendly.
I mean, if we're talking about clean sheets, though, Chelsea have not got 1 clean sheet in any competitive game this season. So that's, if you don't get the attacking returns, you're basically saying you're ready to accept 2 points.
Although, are we not pretty much saying that about Digne, though, at the moment? Let's be honest. We're like paying 6 mil for Digne, who is in exactly the same position, Everton. And I can't believe I'm sat here saying this because I was touting Pickford all pre-season. And like Everton defence, I was like, yes, we're going to be brilliant. And it started off brilliant until these 2 got on board and messed it up. but yeah, I mean, I guess you could say the same about Everton. Like, why are we paying that much? I know they've got 2 clean sheets, but
I think Kurt's point is there's no point going to another defender that has the same issue.
Good point. Yeah, I think it's probably just the
personally,
fixtures, isn't it?
to add one last note, if you're going to get rid of Digne, it's going to be one of 2 times. Either A, going to be now because you've got to, A, get someone in before Man City. Or B, you ride out the Man City game. The fixtures look okay until then. Burnley, West Ham, Brighton, Southampton, Norwich. But then you get rid of him then because the net 5 fixtures after that, Leicester away, Liverpool away, Chelsea at home, United away, Arsenal at home. They're nasty fixtures. And if Everton aren't to improve, you've got Tottenham at home in between that. The fixtures do get tough. So if you're not going to get rid of him now, I think in my eyes, he's going to be going at some point anyway. But I'm just hoping he starts to pick up a few more points.
Yeah, good point.
No, and that is a good point, Kurt. I think I needed to hear that because you're right. I am considering Alonso, and it's kind of contradictory to what I've just said because 6 million for no clean sheets does feel very expensive. And if I take a punt on Alonso, which is a very exciting kind of maverick move, it still could end up being another headache down the line. If they don't keep clean sheets. Which is different because if you go for Tomori at 4.5 million, it doesn't matter as much if they don't keep clean sheets because you've released 1.5 million. But when you're spending the premium, Ricardo Pereira is another one at 6 million over the budget. Soyuncu, it's a lot more if Leicester aren't keeping clean sheets. So Alonso and Pereira are tempting like for like options to Digne, but at the same time, if neither team keeps clean sheets, the budget options are a bit more.
Another thing to add quickly, ever so quickly, I believe I saw that Emerson is out until mid-October. If we are to assume that he comes back mid-October, straight back into the first team, that means you get 2 games because there's 2 more games until the international break. So you potentially another one with not Aspilicueta but Alonso is that you could get 2 games of him, no returns, and then it'll go back to Emerson. So that it could be a very good move. He could get his spot back, but it could be 2 games where they concede goals, no attacking returns, and straight back out of the team. So it's a risky one, but could pay off heavily.
Yeah, no, I need to be more sensible, I think. I'm just getting drawn into the past of Alonso, and we got an assist already. But you're right, even what's the best situation I can hope for? Maybe he gets a 12-pointer at home to Brighton, but if he's dropped after 2 games, it's still another transfer. 2 transfers have to burn to get him in and out again.
It's just amazing, I think, how I think this just pretty much highlights how we've gone from a lot of pre-season chat about going so big at the back, and now we're more or less saying, apart from Trent, is there really anyone worth having Trent's? Maybe
Robbo's
Robertson.
still in, that's it. It's Robertson and Trent.
Yeah, cool. Okay, we've got one here from the Bardi Boys, and he asks, battle of the premiums between Salah plus Aubameyang or Aguero plus Mane. Now, we'll try and make this one quick fire, shall we? But it's going to be quite difficult, I think. I've got Salah and Aguero, so I'm on a different pairing completely.
I prefer that one.
Jay?
What were the pairings again? My brain's getting confused. Too many
Salah
good options.
and Aubameyang or Aguero Mane?
I'd probably go Salah and Aubameyang.
Oof, okay. Brett? You like my one, but if you had to choose out of those 2, Salah and Albert, Aguero, Mane, you've got Mane, right?
I have. I'd probably go Salah or Aubameyang, both on penalties.
Nice.
And yeah, Arsenal's fixtures are great, and
Unless Aubameyang keeps giving them to Pepe.
No, that was just a confidence boost thing.
Maybe he continued boosting his confidence until he actually scores in open play, and he never scores an open play.
I don't think so. I think he's given him his chance. He did the same with Laka.
That's a risky time to do it, though, isn't it? Because weren't they losing at the time?
We were drawing. No,
I think you were
losing.
Aubameyang scored the free
kick.
Losing. Yeah, it's a risky time to give someone.
Oh yeah, I agree, but I
confidence boosting penalty.
I think that just goes to prove how much Aubameyang thinks that Pep is good enough. Otherwise, he wouldn't do it. So
he was right down the middle, though. Well, never mind. I'm going off track of the.
What happened to quick fire, Kurt? Out of those 2 pairings, did you have a preference?
Salah and Aubameyang, just because Aubameyang scored a free kick, should be on penalties. Salah is on penalties and is on most set plays anyway. So
yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I really struggle with all of those. If you're asking me to choose, I'd probably go Salah and Aubameyang as well.
Quick fire, Nim.
I absolutely love Aguero, so
both pairs should score equally as well. Yeah. So it's okay. Impossible to
Let's
choose.
have a question from the chat.
Cool. Okay. So we talked about Digne transferring out. Thomas McCarthy wants to know Sterling in or out. So this is another hot topic, really, because KDB's looking so cheap and reliable, and Sterling's been benched and blanked. And what do we think, guys? Nim, you've got Sterling at the moment, obviously.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts? Have you had the thought to maybe transfer him out?
Yeah, it's been really difficult this week. As you guys will know, most of pre-season I had Aguero and Kevin in my team. Literally, that was how I was building my team. Sterling wasn't in it at all. It was Aguero and KDB because they tend to just marry brilliantly with each other. And when I heard that KDB was having a fantastic pre-season, it just felt like a no-brainer to have those 2. To me, and I always thought obviously it'd be easy to get off Aguero and maybe upgrade to Sterling, if I needed to. But then obviously Aguero didn't play the community shield or something like that, the cup of some kind pre-season, and it kind of panicked me about him starting, and so I went for Kane. Now, if I'd literally just done Aguero for Kane and left it at that and left the money in the bank, then I'd probably be in a really good position now in terms of rank and stuff like that. But I didn't. I obviously spread the funds and got Sterling in instead of KDB. basically, it's left me in a really difficult position now because there are a lot of people with Sterling and KDB and or Aguero and KDB, whereas I've got the kind of weirder pairing, I guess, of Aguero and Sterling. And what I said in my video this week is what I struggle with both of them is that they tend to haul, both Sterling and Aguero tend to haul, but they don't tend to do it in the same match together. So I'm in this really awkward position where I tend to catch a haul from one or the other, but I don't tend to get like them both together, which is really difficult. So meanwhile, everyone else who's got KDB with a Sterling or Aguero are kind of ticking away with that assist or that goal, or the things that KDB is creating for one of those two. So it's a really awkward position. I was not shocked to see him start tonight. It's difficult having seen him scored a goal and got an assist, I think. And then getting subbed fairly early, around the 17-minute mark, said. So that means I can't imagine he doesn't start on the weekend based on that. I'd like to kick having Sterling down the road a little bit longer and then have that ability to choose whether or not to get off of Aguero or Sterling based on what happens in the next week or two. But I feel like I don't know, like I feel like I'm almost missing the boat with KDB whilst it's happening. So it's difficult. I think if you have Sterling and KDB, then I don't think you need to worry about selling Sterling personally. It's if you're in my position, I think, where you don't have KDB, that it makes life a bit more difficult.
Sure.
What do you guys think? Jay, what do you think about it?
I mean, I said to myself at the beginning of the season, pick one, stick with it, and that's it. That's your decision made. Yeah. It was Salah and Sterling. Those are my captaincy choices.
Yeah.
Doesn't help that I've got it wrong nearly every single game week, but those were going to be my two captaincy armband candidates every single game week. The issue I have is, one, the fact that KDB is so on form, and that seems to benefit Aguero more than it does Sterling. Two, I look at Liverpool and I see Mane, and I just think, well, the goals go through only 3 players at Liverpool, or 5 if you count the fullback. Whereas that City side right now, you've got Silva also turning up, you've got Mahrez turning up, you've then got the return of Sane potentially, and it feels like there's so many options for goals and assists. David Silva as well, of course, in that City side. Whereas with that Liverpool side, it just feels like I can predict who's going to be involved in the goals a little bit easier, which makes me feel like Sterling might not be necessarily as important as I thought he would be, when I could just get Salah and Mane. I'm weighing it up. I'm still not convinced, but
I think, like, on the other hand, though, just to kind of say about that, like, myself and Brett will probably back up massively there, because we had both Salah and Mane, as you know, for a large part of that second half of the season. The thing, though, that's difficult earlier on in the season, I tend to find, is that with Liverpool, at least, there is like only those players, as you say, and there isn't a whole lot of backup. So when we come to like getting the fixtures coming a bit thick and fast, it does worry me which one out of those 3 tends to miss out, which one gets rotated, who's coming off earlier, who's, that's what I mean. Whereas, of course, that'll happen with City as well. But I'm just kind of hoping that like they've got more of the depth of squad that allows them to play maybe some of the other players midweek. And then, your likes of Sterling, KDB and Aguero, but maybe being a bit more, I don't know, maybe it's a concern for nothing because Klopp is Klopp, you'll probably just play those every week. But
I feel like I can predict Klopp better than I can predict
that's true.
Guardiola.
Well, that's true. That's very true. There's that depth of squad that causes the issues, I guess. It's just if you're okay, obviously, with like Mane coming off early, or those sorts of things, if you're going to double up on them.
Oh, I'm no way like 100% convinced by my own argument. It's just been something that I've been considering because I've been watching Liverpool games and it's just so infuriating when the other one scores.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like when it's City and I see it's not one of my players scoring, I'm like, I'm not seeing that City goal alert and expecting it to definitely be one of my players. Whereas a Liverpool goal, I'm like, please, Salah or Alexander-Arnold.
Yeah.
And then when it's Mane and Robbo, I'm like, that's the worst combo. Like,
yeah.
I can see what you're saying, but like, I think that's because you don't have them. Whereas I think if you went the other way around, then it would be the same for City, to be honest. I genuinely feel like that.
It doesn't hurt me as much when it's a City goal and it's not my players as it does when it's a Liverpool goal and it's not my players. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, try not owning KDB, then you'll know what hurt is when when a City player scores and you don't own him.
Can I just say, don't bring him in, because I brought Digne in and it ruined it. So maybe just stay off KDB.
It's not going to happen. He's definitely coming in. It's just a matter of when, I'm afraid.
I'm going for whichever Man City midfielder or striker you get rid of.
Okay, cool.
We'll just swap.
The thing is, though, with Aguero, he's done absolutely nothing to be dropped so far. Now I've just said that, he'll like completely screw up next week. Whereas Sterling obviously didn't do so well the week before and then got dropped.
The thing is, if you watch the games, he was so close.
Like,
Sterling's so close to scoring.
Yeah.
Just crossbar post. It's just inches.
But it's the same for Aguero as well, isn't it? Last week, I mean, how many could he have had? You know, if
at least he was playing.
If he just converted just one more of those chances, then I'd be, you know, maybe in the 100k rather than 200. So it is really frustrating. But yeah, what do you think, Brett? What would you do in the? So you've got Sterling, right, and KDB.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the whole thing?
Again, it's tempting to sell Sterling from the past few weeks and the argument that he hasn't been as effective, not just in FPL points, but his performances in general. And with the likes of Son to free up a lot of money, that kind of thing, you know, sort of coming up. For me, because I haven't got Aguero and City score so many goals, realistically, the only way I could sell Sterling if I was going to get Aguero in as an alternative. I couldn't, me personally, I couldn't possibly go without either of them.
Yeah.
But like, I'm looking at teams like Sam of FPL Family, who's having a stormer, and she hasn't got Aguero or Sterling, and it's like, wow, like. That's impressive, you know. It feels like
what you do with the extra funds, isn't it? That's
for sure. And because she hasn't had the headache of captaincy for Man City, she's just popped on De Bruyne each time they've got a good fixture, and that's reap rewards, you know. Yeah. So it shows that actually neither of them, you don't have to have either of them. You can still do well. But for me, I just wouldn't want to go into a game week not owning both Aguero and Sterling. And at the same time, granted, we can measure it over the first 6 weeks now, and Aguero scored in every game, and he's been so consistent, and he's above Sterling now. It only takes another 15-point haul from Sterling to be level. So if you measure this over 7 or 8 or 10 game weeks, it wouldn't surprise me to see Sterling still the highest scorer, you know. So realistically, I could swap Sterling and get Aguero in this week. With 2 free transfers, I could basically go Sterling and Kane out, Aguero and Son in. Basically 2 sideways moves. Is it really worth 2 free transfers? Either player on their day could do well. So deep down, I think part of me is like, people are thinking of selling Sterling. Go ahead and do it. I'm just going to keep him, and you're going to regret selling Sterling, you know?
That's
so
the thing.
Realistically, I don't think I'm going to do it. I'm going to keep Sterling, and being like one of the highest point scorers 2 seasons in a row, he's going to explode back into form soon. I'm pretty confident of that.
Yeah, so I think that's why I'm kind of thinking of maybe doing the whole defensive thing and moving Greenwood to Tammy, because I genuinely am just like, I want one more week of seeing City in the Premier League before making that choice, that very, because it feels like it's going to be quite an epic choice. Do you know what I mean? Between selling Sterling or Aguero to get KDB, it feels like it's going to be quite an important choice. And I just feel like, given on what's just happened, I might just be being reactionary to the whole Sterling thing and just selling him just off the cuff, when this week he could happily score like 3 goals.
Absolutely.
And I'd be like, why did I, and Aguero gets 1 assist out of all of that, and I'm thinking, what have I, why did I sell him? Maybe I should have Sterling and KDB now, so
yes,
it's going to be difficult, because obviously if I do get Tammy up front for Greenwood, then my main person who I would have swapped Aguero to, that option is kind of gone, because I would have obviously dropped Aguero to Tammy in order to get KDB in. So it's very tough. What do you think, Kurt? I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? The Sterling, KDB, Aguero thing. You've only got KDB, right? Or have you only got Sterling?
Sterling,
okay. So you're like me, you don't have KDB either.
No, I don't plan on getting KDB either. It's a very stupid mindset, but if I'm to get rid of anyone or get KDB in, I potentially got money from Digne coming in, in which if I take out Digne, let's have a look at a defender. Let's bring in Eric Peters, for example. That'll do 4.7. I've got 2.5 remaining. I get rid of McGinn and I can't reach him. I get rid of Mason Mount and I can't reach him. So the only way I get, the only way I sort of get him is take away another team. So I potentially take away Firmino and then I can upgrade, take away a Vardy and I upgrade, take away a Son and I upgrade. And for me, this is all coming about. Sterling's been dropped once.
Yeah.
And we've got to remember, there's a reason so many of us joke and laugh and pray that Pep Roulette doesn't happen, because we know he drops people all of a sudden, but that's maybe, he's seen Sterling have 2 subpar performances, no goals, no assists. He drops him and then sees the team win 8-0. It'll reignite the fire in Sterling, in my eyes. So I think there's no need to panic. He gets dropped in the 2nd week in a row, then there's reason to panic. But there's nothing to worry about at the moment.
Yeah.
That's
what I would quickly, sorry, Nim. What I would say is that talking about rotation as well, KDB got benched the week before, comes back with a 17-pointer. Sterling's had his rest now. He could just as easily do that in the following game week.
Yeah. Well, I'm leaning towards keeping him at least 1 more week, whether that be just making 1 change at the back and rolling the 2 to see what happens down the road, or whether to get Tammy in and, sticking with Sterling for another week or 2, while I roll up some transfers and then deciding what to do. I think it's difficult because all 3 of them have their merits and all 3 of them are getting game time this season, and all 3 of them seem to be doing really well when they've all had, KDB and Aguero both had injury issues in the past. So far, it hasn't thrown up any bumps in the road. Now, there are teams out there that obviously have all 3 are doing really well as well. But obviously, when you get a Pep Roulette week like this, then your likes of somebody like Sam, for instance, from FPL Family, as you mentioned, who only has 1 of them, obviously ends up benefiting quite greatly, especially if that becomes the person who hauls. So I'm just going to ask 1 more question before we go to Jeffers Corner, because we really do need to wrap it up because we're quite late tonight. But it's kind of on the same vein. At Samantha _1991_ says, who would you captain if you own Sterling, KDB and Salah for this week? All good fixtures, just a matter of a lucky pick. So, Kurt, Sterling, which one out of those? Sterling, KDB or Salah?
Sterling, because people are going to be transferring him out. And if you have got him, you're not going to risk putting the captain's armband on him in case he gets dropped again. So in my eyes, I have a decent vice-captain, but Sterling for the actual captaincy, because I feel like his captaincy points could be differential, not his actual points in general, but the points you get from captaining him could be quite good.
Yeah, I think for me it's between Sterling and KDB. difficult though. Obviously, KDB's been rested. Sterling could obviously do fantastically. Maybe vice and captain and just flip a coin. Those two. But it's quite difficult. I mean, the fixture for Liverpool's still pretty good. Jay, are you thinking of a risky Liverpool pick? Well, it's not really risky, but you thinking of going
Don't listen
Salah
to me
again
for
this
captaincy
week?
calls.
Yeah.
Last year was the year you could maybe listen to me. This year I don't have a clue. So I might just go, you know what, I'm not picking either of them. I'll go pick somewhere else.
Okay.
Just because my rotation of Man City and Liverpool captains has been terrible.
Okay. All right. Well, please don't put it on Sterling this week, because
if I was going to, it would probably be Sterling, just to make me worried about it. Just because he's had the rest, so now he might turn up. But
my captaincy is probably just going to be Aguero again, because I captained him 2 weeks ago because I wasn't sure how long he was going to last in my team. And then last week I captained him again because I wasn't sure how long he was going to last in my team. And I kind of feel like that again this week. So I'm just kind of, I keep putting it on him in the kind of, I guess, maybe in this slight somewhere down in the depths feeling that eventually I won't have him anymore, that it feels likely that I'll end up with Sterling and KDB. But so Aguero, but that's not an option. So I don't know, it's almost impossible, Brett.
Yeah, if I was to make that move for Aguero, I would captain him personally. But like Jay said, I've had so many captain blanks this season, so I'm probably not the best to ask. I mean, I haven't even chosen.
Do let me know if you are going Aguero, though, eh?
I will.
And I'll go with Salah if you lot go with Aguero.
I've currently got KDB and Sterling, obviously. Part of me has considered captaining Kane at home to Southampton. I have considered that just as something different. I've considered bringing in Vardy and captaining him against Newcastle. I've got a feeling about Vardy this week. But realistically, it probably will be Sterling. I know De Bruyne got 17 points last week. He's in unbelievable form. It's just a personal opinion. So the sensible player would tell you captain Kevin De Bruyne this week. Mm-hmm. I just prefer captaining Sterling over De Bruyne, personally. That's why I did it this week, even though he got benched. I still fancied Sterling as the more explosive on his day. So I will probably still go Sterling. And this is probably what costs me a lot of the time, but it's interesting to talk about the psychology of FPL. And I think because I've captained Sterling 3 weeks in a row now and got no returns, part of you just wants to keep, you've almost like when you're putting 2p in the 2p machine, and you keep going and you keep going and you keep going.
It's
you
going
want
to happen.
You get something out. Yeah, I'm always like, if I switch off Sterling now,
give me the points. I've invested in you so much. Give me the points.
That's exactly what I've just done. I stayed on Salah because I was like, I keep changing and it's not worked.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stay on Salah for Chelsea. And I suppose out of Salah and Sterling, I did pick the right one. But then there was Kevin De Bruyne there. But.
Yeah. So it's like putting money into a fruit machine or something and waiting to get a payout. And I've committed 3 weeks to Sterling now. I've got nothing. It's almost
we do not endorse gambling, by the way.
No, it's just analogy.
Yeah.
But so part of me,
2p's are fine.
Maybe it's not the right way to think about it, but it's almost like I've committed so much to Sterling that part of me is like, if I change now, I'm going to be so annoyed because I've had 3 weeks of it. Everton are looking very dodgy. They just lost at home to Sheffield United. They've lost to Bournemouth. So I think I'll probably still go Sterling personally.
And maybe that's the same analogy for me with the psychology. Maybe it's because Aguero's done so well, the last 2 weeks, that I'm almost the same thinking, but for a different reason. Like, he's doing well. Why swap it? Yeah. So, but I can definitely see. There's a reason why I'm feeling like I need to keep Sterling this week. So I can definitely see the appeal to actually captain him. I mean, his away record is pretty decent. And there's that thing where I'm saying, Aguero and Sterling, they haul, but they don't tend to haul together. This could be Sterling's week,
It's a different ball game now. It's not at home to Watford anymore. It's away to Everton. I think Pep will trust Sterling over the other players away to Everton. So I think, we never know what Pep's going to do. It's all a guessing game. But I think Sterling will be fine and should play this one. Yeah.
And Kurt, any of those you would prefer to stick your captaincy on? Obviously, you don't have KDB, but like if you did, would you go Salah, KDB, or Sterling?
Sterling, differential points, and he's always further forward. The potential that KDB at least could be dragged into more of a deep, sort of playmaking type role to help switch the play and keep the attack moving.
That's interesting, actually, because a lot of people have been pointing out that it's the opposite way around, that it's Sterling that's been affected more this season rather than KDB. So when we did see KDB last season, he did seem to be further back, and Sterling was kind of benefiting more from that further role. But it seems like the suggestion on Twitter, at least at the moment, is that with KDB playing that more fluid central role, that Sterling's getting pushed further out on the wing, and he's not having the chance to cut in and take those chances quite so often. He is having to cross the ball in or pull it back or whatever it is, So it's,
Interesting, but if we're having a discussion after 3 weeks, Sterling's got 5 goals, a hat-trick in game week 3.
Yes.
So
away.
Yeah, away. So,
Yeah.
a couple of bad performances and being dropped in pet roulette is arguably has been his turn for quite a while.
Yeah.
We're panicking. We're probably having the same discussions if you owned De Bruyne and he was benched. So
yeah, no, good
just
point.
need to see it out.
Chill
let it
out.
for a few more weeks. Yeah, just chill out. Stop reacting so bad. You hear me? Goodness gracious me. Relax. Hands off the keyboard and just don't look at your FPL team.
On that note, then, no more FPL. Let's move on to Jeffers' corner. At Thunder66 UK, unless nobody knows who Jeffers is, you should do if you watch this stream often enough. He has his random question of the week that he always asks us. And this week, he says, you suddenly wake up with no recollection of anything whatsoever. You're standing at a podium on a stage in front of about 1,000 people. They are obviously waiting for you to speak. Jay, what do you say?
Am I allowed to check my surroundings first, or do I have to straight away start speaking?
I don't know. He didn't specify, so you could go with whatever you want to.
Because I might look to the left and it just says what I'm actually at, and I'm like, okay, I can work with that. I'd assume I'd be there to talk.
Why
FPL.
the left and not the right? Ooh, psychology.
My light's to the left. I don't know. I guess I'd assume I was there because of FPL. I'll just start talking FPL.
Oh, since he's a big shot on FPL.
Well, no, what else am I going to be on the podium for right now in my life?
Oh, best dad award or something, maybe.
My kids.
Okay, so what would you say if it was for FPL?
I'd start off with I'm the man in the no JNO. And just go from there.
Brett.
I wing it most of the time anyway.
I was going to say, this would be your nightmare, wouldn't it, Brett? Not having any chance to research it whatsoever. It's like the complete opposite.
Yeah, definitely. I have no idea what I would say. I'd probably just say, what the hell's going on?
Someone help me.
I was asleep a minute ago. I've been kidnapped.
Pinch myself.
Yeah, I'd probably ask what year it was. What am I doing up here?
See, he's doing his research straight away. He's like,
yeah,
okay.
it's true, asking questions.
Yeah, sorry, that's a really crap answer, but I don't know.
It's not an easy question, to be fair.
They never are. Kurt, what would you say?
It depends what podium, because you could say something along the lines of, I plead not guilty. Who's to say we're not in court here? Speaking in court. So it depends. I would probably just start blabbing on about something. I generally do that most of the times. I don't think I've planned FPL content in years. I just turn a camera on and record, or turn a camera on and then chant about Salah. That's about it.
Cool. Well, I think the first thing I'd say is hello. Hi. Don't know how I got here, but hello, everybody. I think that's always a good way to start with people. Just say hello. Other than that, it's really difficult unless you know what's going on. It'd be really difficult.
Could do a crowd surf, stage dive.
Yeah, just be like,
just take a step back and go.
Or a Mexican wave. Anyone with me? Yeah, I could just like break out into song and see what happens, see if I get the golden buzzer. But yeah, it's very difficult, isn't it? But hello is definitely where I would start. 'Cause why not?
That's probably a good shout. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Jay, do we have the polls?
Yes, we do. So we've got 3 poll questions for you guys today that you've all hopefully been voting on. The first one, Abraham or Firmino, which was a topic we were discussing just now. And if it will work, which it doesn't seem to be, which is fantastic. There we go. So Abraham won at 81%,
Oof,
with Firmino at 9%, both also at 9%, and no one voted on either, because why would you have none of them? Gameweek 7 captaincy, a regular poll. We take the top 4 candidates from Fantasy Football Scout, and Salah, Sterling, and Son all on 27%. So,
wow.
Who was the 4th option? Was it KDB?
Abraham. KDB was 5th.
Wow.
Oh my gosh,
okay,
that's very split. Yeah.
So could be a good game week for a differential if you guys there's anything to go by for the whole
Harry
game.
Kane.
And then best Game Week 7 budget option, which was a question, but I don't think we really touched it. I think this was mainly focused on this game week 7, and it was Cantwell, Rico, and Lundstrom. And 54% voted for Cantwell, with 27% on Rico and 18% on Lundstrom. So, guys, thank you for participating in the polls.
Yep.
Hopefully, you have enjoyed this stream. Do check out all the links in the description. And also, please do like the video. And if you are new, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when we go live. And that is it from us. So, thank you guys so much. And we'll catch you guys next time.